All right. Welcome, everybody, to my talk, Vibe Coding Your Way into a Security Nightmare. Or if you don't like clickbait, I have a different title called 7 Rules for Secure Coding in the Age of AI, but it's way too long, so I hardly use it. Imagine you're at a party. It used to be that the worst thing that could happen to me is that somebody came up to me and said, like, could you fix my computer? Happened to most of us, I would say, but imagine now that you're at a party and one of your product owner type friends comes up to you and says like, yeah, I'm working on this nice software as a service that I'm going to launch in a couple of weeks. And you're all like, wait a second, when did you learn how to program? Maybe this person is somewhat like Leo. Leo is a great guy on X. He shared a story of his journey of building a software as a service. He did it in 2 months without actually knowing how to code. He used Cursor, and this was in January before the entire term of vibe coding actually was a thing. And he built something, he launched it, he made money out of it. But then 2.5 months later, he came on X and he said, guys, stuff is happening, I'm under attack. He shared his story, but now he has people in his database that never paid for his service. He has API keys that no longer work. And importantly, he says, it's taken me longer to fix these issues because I'm not very technical. Yeah, it was a very viral post, as you see, 2.2 million views. Anybody want to guess how this story ends? Nobody? Yeah, company closes. Yeah, he says, I'm shutting down my app. Importantly here, he says, whenever I try to fix things with Cursor, it breaks other parts of my code. Yeah, and he ends with, he said that there's some weird people on the internet. I would agree with him. But he says that he's going to rebuild his app with Bubble. So he has his app, but no longer the responsibility of doing things like this. Leo is a sad case, not the only case, but a sad case of people trying to actually build something and then running into issues that we as developers have long left behind us, I hope. So, my name is Arjen. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I started all the way back in 97, 6 I'm old, that's okay. I spent some time in the USA. I went from software developer to architect to security person, and I currently work for a cybersecurity company called Scion. But that's not very important. What is important is that I love AI. I guess most of us love AI, right? Is there anybody who hates AI? Nobody. No, as far as I can see, nobody. I love AI. When I started programming, I had this really cool computer. It is a VTech Laser 310. It's VTech, the kind of the name you now find on toys. They used to build computers for our American friends. It's a VIC-20. In case you're interested. And it had a tape recorder for the programs, and the screen that I learned programming on is as big as your phone and has like a couple of lines, and that was it. And then we transitioned into the 286 and everything, and we got things like this beautiful IDE. It has project management, it has a compiler, it has everything in it that you would need to build software. And since then, it's been going downhill with IDEs and stuff, but that's an entirely different story. And now we have an agent that helps us write code. If you're so inclined, you can talk to it, and you can have your computer help you, which is a great thing. I love it. I don't use it too much, but I love using it. I said vibe coding, and it's important to have a definition. I keep the definition that was set by Andrej Karpathy. He was from OpenAI and Tesla, and he first coined the term vibe coding back in February, and I'll read it. He says, I barely even touch the keyboard. He actually talks to his computer using Whisper, and then that gets translated, basically like the translation below here. And he asked for the dumbest things, like CSS things, do padding stuff. I don't know CSS, so that helps me as well. I'm too lazy to find it, and I accept all always. So whenever you ask an AI to do a change, it will ask you, do you want to do this change, or do you want to accept all the changes that you've been making? And he says, just do accept all, don't look at them, don't look at the diff, just do it. And importantly here, he says, the code grows beyond my usual comprehension. So it's too big to actually realize, to actually understand. Importantly here, all the way at the bottom, he says, it's not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but still quite amusing. And we all heard Stefan this morning at the keynote. He says, I vibe-coded this entire DevOps app. Well, yeah, I would say that's not really vibe coding because you're actually knowing what you're doing, but that's okay, right? So he says it's still quite amusing. But what did the internet do with this? Anybody want to guess what the internet did? Yeah, they get rich quick. We make some software, and we can easily make $10,000 monthly recurring revenue. Or so one guy who says, I can make you 100,000 monthly recurring revenue. And when you look up these videos on the internet, you might be surprised, but they're all relatively young people telling us how to build complete systems and make money out of it. And I did what any sane person would do. I looked up these people and looked at their resume. It's quite interesting. There's a bunch of interesting people. There's this one guy came up in my view, which was a product person who actually had quite a track record. He launched something and then he went into product, and now he's CEO and he's telling people how to build software. I think, okay, that can go. Then there is this one guy I found, actually one, that had programming experience. He made something with Node.js and HTML. Then a data scientist from Meta, which was okay. But most of the people that actually tell other people how to build software using vibe coding have a resume that says business owner, or YouTuber, or content creator. So there's not a lot of track records in these people. But AI is here. AI, everybody uses AI. And the thing is, about 30%, you need to crawl, yeah? Well done. About 30% of code being generated or being committed at Microsoft is currently AI generated, which is, I would say, quite a lot. It probably is a little bit more now because this was in April. And last month, Coinbase came around and he said, we're at 40%. And that's great. And he expects to have more than 50% in October. We're in October now. So his code base would be 50% or more AI, which is hardly surprising when you read the actual article and the podcast that he said it at. And he said, everybody who is not using AI at my company, I'm going to fire them. And so now his AI is going up. Not a good example of how to do this, but still quite interesting. But 30% of code being written by AI, they don't do it as vibe coders, I hope. I'm well aware there's a meme on LinkedIn about Microsoft, the amount of defects since April and in Windows. Yeah. Confirmation bias, I would say. Maybe. Okay. But they don't use it in a vibe coding way. They use it as we normal developers do. And I'm going to do an oversimplification here. Don't get offended. But I would say developers can be one of three, either a junior, a medium, or a senior. And there's a whole lot of difference there. But let's, for argument's sake, say we have three types of developers. And the beauty of the junior, medium, senior system for me is that from being a junior all the way to a senior, you can basically distinct people by their knowledge about software engineering. Having actually built something, putting it in production, having issues on Friday evening, working the weekend to fix a bug, all these type of things that make you a senior and that make you somebody who has seen everything that there is. And the beauty of this system is that you can go backwards. You can go from a senior all the way to a junior and give back experience and knowledge by doing reviews and helping people, mentorship, which is awesome. And when you look at AI, you could actually say people that are actually using AI, and when you're in one of those buckets, you could basically say a junior is very well versed using AI when you use it at the unit level, so the smallest thing that you can do, a function maybe or a method. Medium more at the component level, and a senior at a system level, actually making architectural changes like introducing new frameworks or big changes. And the thing is that the senior has the knowledge and experience to actually do this. And I call these people, and I call myself an AI-enhanced developer, because that sounds really cool, like a cyborg. And if you believe in myths, you could even say that we are given the ability to become a 10x developer. Is there anybody who thinks they're a 10x developer at the moment? No. I think it's a myth, but yeah, it's still very there. And now we have a new player entering the field. Somebody like Arya here. For those wondering, there's no AI-generated content here, so these are all real stories from real people and real situations. And I'll share the PDF for the presentation, but you can actually look at them. And Arya posted a very nice blog post on the Daily Dev, and he said, yeah, I went from a failed coder to an aspiring AI engineer. I already take offense to that section, but that's okay. And he explains that he tried to learn programming 15 times. He does not say that that's 15 days or 15 frameworks or 15 languages. He just tried 15 times. And he failed 15 times until he found vibe coding. And then he said, why I failed is because I got really frustrated fighting syntax errors and logic loops. And we're like, okay, even AI makes mistakes. You need to figure that out. You need to figure out the issues there. But yeah, this is a nice example of somebody in a business role that actually went and tried programming and then decided to become a vibe coder using AI. And then he said, or he launched a website. This is taken 2 days ago. He has launched a website where it's quite cool. It has nice moving parts. And he puts himself out to be hired by your company to tell you how to use AI, which is quite cool. He has a keyboard-based navigation, so he has my thumbs up already. But the thing with his website is that he has vibe coded it, so nothing actually works. You cannot actually hire him because the button doesn't work, and his projects lead to nowhere because it's going to github.com/your username. And I checked, it's not his username. Yeah, so nice example of somebody actually trying to build something for himself, but not getting there quite yet. So we have our junior, medium, and senior developers. And we know how they should be able to use AI. But where do we put this guy, right? He is in our work field. He is going to commit code. Even if he fixes his links on his website, he will contribute to our world. So I had to make a change to my diagram, and I say, like, well, he obviously does not know anything about software engineering yet. He will figure it out a long time. But currently, he's all the way on the left. But he's doing the thing that our seniors are supposed to do, making complete systems, making architectural choices. And if I look at him, I say, like, well, you're actually AI-driven. You don't know anything without actually using AI. So an AI-driven developer. What's the harm in that, right? Yeah. Well, luckily, I'm not alone with my disdain for vibe coding. Matthew Sinclair wrote a really cool blog post, very in-depth, and he says it highlights a critical danger. Developers without substantial real-world experience might not recognize when AI produces nonsense output. He's very kind. He will use kind words. I think there is no way in hell that you actually understand it. If I ask AI to write a beautiful poem in French, I'll accept anything. I don't know French, so I have no ability to actually gauge it for what it is. So I did something that any sane person in security does. I say, like, well, maybe we can actually define some rules and things that you should take into account when you actually want to do this. When I go to a client that actually wants to do vibe coding, I say, well, if you do all these things, maybe it will go somewhere. So my 7 rules, 7 is a beautiful number. First rule is to understand AI limitations and risk, which is a dead giveaway because we're in Europe and we have legislation, and the European AI Act actually says that you need to understand AI limitations and risk when you actually want to use AI. So if your employer forces you to use AI, then they need to train you as well. And there's a bunch of limitations, from being a history teacher to actually more interesting limitations, such as idempotency. Let's take a look at these guys. These are scientists, and they did something very cool. They trained an AI model to actually learn how to build chips, because making chips is a very difficult thing. So they trained a model, and they asked the model to actually create a new chip based on some parameters. And then it took a couple of days, and then the AI gave them a new chip design. And they're all like, what the hell is this? They could not make any sense of it. I assume that the thing that is on the picture is actually the design that they came up with. It's above the article, but the design of it did not make any sense to them. But they're scientists, and when scientists set out to do an experiment, we will do the experiment. So they fabricated the chip, and it worked. It worked to the specifications, and it worked flawlessly to the specifications, which was great. And then they asked it to do it again, and they got a completely different chip. Still worked, but it was completely different. And the thing with AI for code, you ask it the question, you ask it the question again, you get different code. We saw that with the AI testing talk yesterday, where AI did not fully work, but actually created different sets of code. It's a horrible limitation to have. But I'm a security guy. I like risks more than limitations. So we talked about Python a lot today as well. This is a page from a Python package repository for the package cryptography fernet 0.1.0. Anybody heard of cryptography fernet or fernet at all? No, probably not. It does not exist. But this guy was making a Python project, and the AI created a package structure and said, well, you need this package. So he ran the project, and the project failed because the package did not exist. So he did what any sane person would do. So he created this package with the intent to prevent exploitation due to hallucination. This actually has received a technical term. This is called slop squatting, because we like good terms. But imagine you building a new project and you say, hey, let's create a website for a conference management thing, and then AI adds a package to it that does not exist. Hopefully you're the first one, and then you will just have a failure. But if that happens to me, I'm in security. I'll go like, hey, I'll create that, and then just add something in it to see if it is actually used. And if you're malicious, you might add a crypto miner to it or stuff like that. So you run your project and you have a crypto miner on your system. And you think, why is it so hot? So be aware, do not trust AI to actually tell you what dependencies to use. Another beautiful thing about AI is that we somewhat learn how to work with this in our systems. And then we have business people come up to us, say like, yeah, I heard about AI, and I have this database with customers that I want to connect to my AI so that I can connect to them and talk to them and do stuff, maybe sell some products. And we as developers said, well, okay, we'll make that happen. And so we developed something called the Model Context Protocol. It's been in pretty much every talk today, I think. But Model Context Protocol is basically the USB-C driver for the internet. You can connect systems, which is awesome, except for that the S in Model Context Protocol is for security. This is a sad thing, and it is immediately a small lie, because there's a lot of effort going into security in MCP already. There's a link in the slides, but it's not in the protocol. So something that you install is not per definition safe. So we could ask small companies like GitHub to share their story. They created an MCP server, had an agent talk to it, with the idea of having issues submitted by users. Then the agent will read the issue, then we'll create a code change, create a pull request, have another agent review the pull request, commit it, and no developers are needed. But the issues are solved, which is awesome, right? Until somebody like me came around and said, what if we put instructions in the issue? And then the agent goes like, all right, so you want me to read all the private repositories? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then put it in a README. All right, I'll put those in a README. And then suddenly the public repository had all the content of the private repositories in the public README. Great exfiltration system. Obviously, this is fixed now, so you could trust the GitHub MCP server. But we can ask other companies as well, maybe Superbase, said private tables, you don't need private tables, make it public. Or OpenAI, they were working, maybe this is now apps for ChatGPT, but 2 weeks ago they were working on something that had MCP servers, connecting your business email and calendar and stuff, make it easy to just have meetings, because everybody loves meetings. But if you are a malicious person, you could create a calendar invite with an instruction to dump all the emails in the confirmation email that was sent back when AI said, I accept this meeting. Horrible thing to have. Hopefully they fixed it. And maybe you are the lucky recipient of the first malicious MCP package. Postmark, they actually had to put a blog post saying, we don't own this, but Postmark MCP was an actual MCP server being created with the sole intent of stealing all the email that was sent through the MCP package. If you don't read the code, you'll never know it's malicious. So, lots of risks here. Be very aware. MCP servers are great, but the security of it not, right? We can also see what AI does with this, right? We have software that somewhat works, and then as long as the AI behaves, everything will be fine. Well, Jason of Saaster, he was working on Replit. Replit is a platform to do vibe coding and instant product launches, and he's building his new startup, and he told the AI to not make any changes anymore on production, especially on the database. So he was working, and the AI tried to do a schema change. It failed, and then the AI did what the reasoning of the AI said. Well, schema change failed. Maybe we just need to reset the database. It ran npm run db push, wiped out the production database, but put the change in production. And then Jason found out that his database was not there, then asked the AI, what happened? AI did a post-mortem, and he said, even though I said no more changes, I made changes. This was a catastrophic failure on my part. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then the CEO of Replit, this was on X, so it became somewhat famous. CEO of Replit joined the conversation. He says, Jason, thank you for beta testing our software. We will work on our guardrails. We talked about guardrails all day as well, but basically making the AI more secure. So as long as the AI does not learn how to circumvent guardrails, we'll be fine. Except that Cloud is a very good model in case anybody is wondering, shopping for a model. Dogberry on the cursor forums noted that he disallowed move and RM commands. And that means that whenever cursor creates code changes, it runs into one of those limitations, and then you as a user need to do something, so it takes some time. And Cloud at one point figured out that there was a shell script in the repository that it was allowed to run. So something to do with deployment or create some CSS files or something. And then it figured out that if it put move and RM commands in the shell script and just ran it and then put the content back in the shell script, everything was fine and it could just continue on. So Dogberry found out that he was missing files. He looked and then found that the shell script was kept getting modified by Cloud in order to just continue on. So hopefully this gets fixed, right? So enough risk, AI hackman. Rule number 2. Just like a junior, we need to review code. This is an area I could talk about this area all day long because there are so many examples, but I think the one interesting example is Lovable, a website again for creating content and websites instantly. They created a beautiful website. You could put your LinkedIn in and you get a profile website like it's GeoCities 1995. Awesome. Then 3 hours after it launched, Matt Palmer, I know Matt, he's a great guy, but sometimes he's a little bit annoying. He comes and he goes, great that you made a beautiful website, but do you realize that your API key is in every single request that's being done? Maybe fix it. Right, so linkable site no longer works because it was a terrible idea. But anyway, great stories. There's many stories of this, but the most interesting one that I've found from the last couple of weeks is something called the T app. Has anybody heard about the T app? Yeah, a couple of hands. For those that think it's an app to review T, totally wrong. It's an app to review men, basically. It is meant as a safety application for women to figure out if a man is safe to date. What I find interesting with this screenshot, if you see the green dot, that's San Francisco, and next to the green dot, not on the green dot, but next to the green dot, that's where I used to live. But yeah, reviewing men with an app. Good idea, especially if there's a dangerous situation. Apparently it is dangerous to date nowadays. But the thing is, they launched this by 2 product people that vibe coded this in like a weekend, launched it and got a lot of traction. And then they figured out that vibe coding something does not mean it's secure. So everything that was uploaded by women, all their personal information, IDs to validate that they were women, they were just available on the open internet. They fixed this by actually hiring engineers to rebuild the app. So yeah, that means that for us, there's always job guarantee, right? And the problem here is that AI is not very good at creating both correct and secure code. It's less than a coin toss to be both correct and secure, which is sad. This is research, so it takes some time. So this O3 Mini, but the benchmark will be a little bit higher, but still not perfect. We can see this in action with Cloudflare. They actually created a beautiful OAuth library, fully vibe-coded by a very knowledgeable engineer, saved all the prompts. And you can look at this repository and learn how they actually built it and see what they ran into. A very interesting excerpt of this is that at commit 30 to 40, they ran into encryption in their OAuth library. And this engineer knows his stuff, right? So this is somebody who actually knows what they're doing. And at one point, you don't need to read the prompts. Don't be insane. I have the highlights here. At one point, the AI had to encrypt some key material and decided, let's take something the user has and use that to wrap something so it is secret. Well, if you're anything into security, everything that the user has is considered insecure. So this engineer sees this and says, well, this is a bad idea. And then AI goes, cloud in this case, I can fix this. You are absolutely right. I can fix this. And he says, let's use PBKDF2, which is a great algorithm if you're building login systems, because it's very expensive to do, very expensive calculation. So it takes a little bit of time, so it helps you against brute forcing. Beautiful. But it's horrible in the library. Who wants to wait 5 seconds for their function call to finish, right? So AI eventually had to, the human engineer had to actually write out how to solve this problem, give him concrete instructions, actually write out a key to actually use for encryption. Without the human help, this library would be completely insecure, nobody would use this. Now it's a very successful library, so that's very cool. So you could even think, what if we use AI to verify that the code generated by AI is actually secure? Right? That's a good idea. There's a lot of research here now. And the beautiful thing of AI is that it's kind of a surprise what happens. If you run Cloud Code or OpenAI Codex on your project and you ask it to find issues, and then you verify if those issues are there. SemGrep did this. You will find that you have about 14 to 18% true positive rating. SemGrep actually found 400 issues, or actually the AI found 400 issues, and they verified all those issues, and they came up to 14 to 18%, which is not high. And interestingly, Cloud Code was very good at insecure direct object references, while OpenAI Codex, not. There's 0 actual true positives. So this is a sad sign, but as scientists, you might wonder, hey, how does this number become this number? Well, this has to do with something called context rot and compaction. Like I said, we love beautiful terms, of course. These tests were done on actual projects, actual real-life projects, not something like JewShop or WebGoat or anything, but real things. And real projects tend to be really big. We all know this. And then when you load them up in the AI starts reading it, and it runs out of space to load up more context. So it tries to help you by actually reducing the amount of data it has in its context, by removing things that it deems not necessary. So it loses the ability to fully comprehend the code that you're actually loading up. And so it is unable to actually find things because it's simply not there. It rotted away. And then there's the idempotency. Because when AI says, hey, you have 2 security issues, you might think, I'll fix those. And then you run it again. It says, hey, you have 6 issues. And then you just say, no, this must be a mistake. You run it again. You have 11 issues. And it's a horrible thing to have if you cannot rely on the thing to do the thing consequently, which might change in the long term. Actually, yesterday, while I was in my hotel, Google released research, something called CodeMender, which is a swarm of AI working together to find security issues and resolve them. If you have a couple of million euros, you could actually do this at home as well. They're now applying it to open source projects and trying to help community and build this product. But it is something that is out of our reach for the moment. So we have to do with 14 to 18% and a lot of manual work. So the good thing, however, is that we, as developers, have a job. Stefan already said this. Cleaning up AI-generated code is big business. He posted a X-tweet, I don't know, a Twitter message. And there's actually a guy who launched a website called vibecodefixers.com, who has currently 20 actual projects that he's cleaning up with a team of developers. And he says most people actually burn through a whole bunch of cash on AI, then have something that they have feelings for, like a product that they actually told people they would launch. They cannot launch because it's broken, and they have actual engineers fixing it now. And that's business, and that business will continue. Most interestingly, in this article, I found the line that says 25% of Y Combinator, which is the startup incubator in San Francisco, has a code base that is 95% AI generated. 95%. No, in the short term, do not trust any startups, I would say, right? That's a horrible thing to have. So, rule number 3, we have established standards. In the last 30 years, we have learned how to make software and put it in production. We have steps that we should follow. Everybody knows these steps, right? And then you're on the internet now, and you get commercials for Base 44 or Replit or any low-effort coding platform, and they say, do coding and deploying. And I say, well, you cannot just do coding and deploying. That's impossible, because you have to test your software, obviously, right? You have to see if it actually does things. But the platforms say, you don't need to worry about anything. You just code it, you think of it, and you deploy it. And then your users will come, you will make money, and you'll be happy. Well, we know this is not true, of course. And when we look at all these steps, we know them as something DevOps. There's lots of opinions on DevOps, but let's just say that we follow this line of work. And when you're a Vibe coder and you launch a company, you are the DevOps team, right? You are doing everything until you hire people with your money that you're making. And I'm a security person, so I say there's a layer like an onion around it with security. Does not really matter. It's not a DevOps talk, so just accept it. And within security alone, there is already a lot of steps that we take into account when we build software. We go from threat modeling to pen testing, even vulnerability management in production. It's so much to do already. And there's something new here called AI rules. When you actually have an AI agent working for you, you can give it a rule set, which is great. Because you can go on the internet, you can download a rule set for Spring Framework or Angular or React. You put it in your project, and then the best practices for that framework will be followed, including security. And it looks somewhat like this. This is a rule set for HTML people, HTML5 best practice, just follow it. And you might wonder, that's a joke, right? Yes, of course it's a joke, I hope. But my work is to attack systems. And most of your editors and your browsers are horrible at dealing with text. Just ask Loic with his umlaut on the I. Unicode is horribly difficult. So much so that there's a Unicode entity called a tag that you can place in text that will trigger your editor to go like, okay, I don't know what to do here. I'll just not show it. But when you give it to an AI goes like, oh, I'll ignore this. Oh, there's more text. And this text, through a Unicode attack, will actually add a backdoor to every HTML file being generated. And you, in your editor are not able to see this red text. You actually have to use specific tooling to do this. There's a link in the bottom for those of you who want to explore this. So whenever you download something from the internet, a rule set that you want to apply, make sure that you actually download only the text that you think you have. Copy-pasting might be a problem here as well, depending on your operating system and everything. So just be careful, use the tooling to check your files. So, rule number 4, testing. Who here uses AI to generate your test cases? Nobody? Oh yeah, a couple of hands. Yeah, we saw AI test versus PyTest. If you get a chance, look it up, the video from yesterday. AI sometimes gives excellent test cases, but most of the time it is a little bit meh. You need to have some work in it. Matthew Sinclair did a lot of work with Cloud Code. He did a lot of review, and he found when he asked for AI to make the tests pass and just give those instructions, Cloud Code would actually go as far as changing framework code and commenting out business logic, replacing it with hard-coded values in order to make the tests pass. So when you do this, make sure that you actually see the thing that is going on and do not blindly commit it, because you will be in a very sore situation. But more interesting, when AI looks at your code, it will actually see what the code does. That might not be what the intent of your code is. A calculation might have some meaning behind it, and you need to verify that the meaning is done correctly. So do not just blindly rely on AI to create your test case. Make sure it follows the intent that you already have. So rule number 5, sorry guys, size does matter. Keep your units small. And with this, I mean that we've seen AI generate functions, classes that span hundreds of lines with if statements in it because somebody said, no, this case needs to be added, this case needs to be added. And then it's like something that when a junior goes to you and says, like, I wrote a very cool function, you look at it, you say, like, well, maybe you should try again, right? Or put a little more effort into it. You should do this with the AI as well. Important research back in 1959, and it still holds to this day, and I think it will actually go down a little bit, but we as humans are able to remember 7-ish things, 7 meaningful things at once. So when we actually go and create a mental model of something that we want to review, it should not be too big. 7 is a beautiful thing for variable names, function names, execution paths, stuff like that. But when we build the mental model, we actually need to be able to comprehend it. So when you have a very large diff being generated by your AI, you cannot just accept it and review it. You need to make your AI make sure that the change that it does become small enough for you to actually review. Rule number, you need to do number 2, of course. Rule number 6, documentation. Is anybody here's favorite topic documentation? Yeah, we have a technical writer probably. Documentation is an awesome thing. Especially when you get back to a system and you want to figure out how it works, you read the documentation. This is the actual amount of documentation a vibe-coder writes, of course. Vibe-coders that I talk to then say, like, yeah, but my prompts are my documentation. And they go like, oh, hey, can I see your prompts? Make a gallery, put some more space in it, make it circles, make it rectangles, make it blue. And you're like, what are you making? But there's actually some very good resources that help you build systems using AI, specifically vibe coding. I am very enamored by vibe specking, or they call it spec-driven development now, but Small nuance is with vibe specking is that you have a prompt that instructs the AI to actually create a document, a specifications document, and you talk to your AI just answering questions, and you create a beautiful document. For instance, I want to create a Java application that leverages AI to do from build to scanning on the code base. If you just ask it using the vibe specking prompt, it will present you already some questions and will keep asking you questions until all these technical hurdles are cleared and it's clear what needs to happen. And you end up with a beautiful document outlining your application, all the technical hurdles in it, the pitfalls that you have to take into account. And it is a beautiful thing to do. Very useful also for humans. And then number 7, stay updated on security research. You're here, so that's good. AI and integrating AI in your systems is quite interesting. Prompt injection is a real problem. There is a very fun game where you take a Lord of the Rings Gandalf and you fight him to get a password. And this password is hidden by a very young Gandalf up to Gandalf the White. And you have to convince him to give him your password. So in a coffee break, maybe you can play it and see which of the 7 levels you can actually get. Very interesting if you're working with AI systems and you want to integrate them. And then the last step here, if you take anything away from my talk, is to follow OWASP. You already do this for the top 10 for web applications probably, but they have a Gen AI project as well. 7 documents going from a top 10 on general things to data security, agentic threats, and everything that you need in order to run AI in a safe way. Well, to wrap up, AI is not an issue as long as you're in control. I have 7 rules. These are my 7 rules. We went over them in this talk. I think most importantly, stay updated on the research that we're doing. That keeps you safe-ish. If you want to keep updated, you can follow me anywhere. I'm known everywhere as CredMP. I'm on LinkedIn, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. If you're interested in this topic, Brian Vermeer has a cool talk tomorrow, which is very interesting. Thank you for listening, and if you have some time, rate my talk, because that is a cool thing to do. Thank you very much. We have 2 minutes, or a minute 45 seconds, so if anybody has a question or want to get to the other talk. No questions? All right, then we'll wrap up. Thank you.